I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, that would be
We need roll.
roll call. Oh, okay, we'll do roll call first. Make it legal.
Demore, present. Shields,
Here.
Wagner,
Here.
Walker, here, Murphy.
Yes, present. I'd like to have us take and move under new business. We move that to be presented following the public hearing on the Parks and Rec master plan. That would speed up the process for these guys.
Sure. So moved.
So I have a motion from Mr. Moore, I have a second from Mr. Walker, I guess, yeah.
Should do, but we don't.
Clerk, would you please call a roll on a change of agenda?
I did not catch who made the
It was
motion.
Demore, and it was seconded by Ms. Walker.
So Demore. Aye. Walker. Aye. Shields.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes, no motion to revise the agenda. Next is public hearing, and I'd like to open this up to the public. And this is to receive comments concerning the 2023 to 2027 Parks and Rec Master Plan Amendment. At this point, is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak to council at this time regarding this public hearing? Please come forward, give us your full name, your full address. And hit the button. Yes.
My name is Jane Schneider. My address is 713 Grove Street, Tasky. I'm here as the new president of the Petoskey Area Garden Club. And I am here to speak for the probably a small part of the master plan, which is for Arlington Park to have that begin to be transitioned into a children's garden. When I've gone to Ward 2 meetings, people have spoken that they wanted more things for youth. And when, we have actually, the garden club has been working at 5 years, 7 years, 5 years on this, talking about it, planning for it. And as you know, we have plans drawn up that we've done for us, and we have made a connection with the Little Traverse Band of Odawa Indians, and they are they said honored to work with us to include, when we were very first working on this 5 years ago, we were consulting with people who had done children's gardens in other places like Michigan State University's children. Did I run out of time already? It should reflect your community. What is unique about your community? You can look at other children's gardens, but you want to do something that is unique for Petoskey. And that's what we think we have planned, in that it will reflect the culture of the indigenous people here. The native plants will be represented and how they use them. There will be signage. We're really excited about all the different things and other parts of their culture. It's a children's garden, so there'll be things to climb on and investigate. And so it's like an interactive thing. Arlington Park is kind of a clean slate, and we feel that we can really help it. Obviously, it's not going to be inexpensive. To it, and also helping to look for grants, and they helping to raise money for that. Next year, 2024, will be the Garden Club's 90th anniversary that we have been in the city, and we have done a lot of things for the city, and we want to continue that. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address council at this time? Online, there's anybody, is there?
I don't see any hands. None.
To be enough for their public comment, I call this public hearing closed. Now, now we're going to have a presentation prior to adopting the proposed resolution approving the 2023-2027 Parks and Rec Master Plan. And then you're up, Kendall. Come on down.
All right, thank you. I'll just do nods. Thanks, Sarah. So before I get too deep into this, I want to acknowledge our Park and Recreation Commission as they put a lot of effort into this plan. We had extra meetings. They reviewed the plan. They offered suggestions. They were very engaged with this process. We have a few here tonight, Ken Turk, Sharon Walker, Cody Wilcox, John Terry, Jennifer Buchanan. We incidentally just had a Parks and Recreation Commission meeting prior to this. So I just wanted to publicly thank them. I thank them all the time in the meeting, but really from the results, I'm really proud of this plan, and they had certainly played a huge role into the final project. So thank you, everybody. Also, this is a presentation that I'm going to talk about the process, talk about some of the data that came out of it. And then talk about the outcomes that we're working towards. This is a five-year plan that we might get 3 projects out of. Okay, but what it does is it really sets us up, I think, even looking farther down the road, 5 years from now, myself or somebody else would be up here talking about the next master plan. They all just kind of feed on each other. So what we did is we have state requirements for these master plan updates. We exceeded all the state requirements by a long shot. We had 2 in-person workshops here at City Hall in the community room where we had every park kind of outlined. And if you recall, when you took the survey, there were ratings, there was opportunity for feedback. So we tried to get the in-person experience to mimic the online experience with the amount of questions. We had an online survey that was available for 8 days. We used a QR code that we displayed not only here in City Hall, but in a few places, locations around town. We promoted the survey and the purpose through our social media. We put it on the website. It did go out in the city's newsletter. We sent press releases out to our local media partners, and also it was on the chamber newsletter. And I think there was one of the news stations did a brief piece on it. So we mailed 225 postcards to addresses within 300 feet surrounding parks. There was an article that was published in the Petoskey News Review. And we put a lot more effort into the questions other than putting a park out and saying, what do you want to see in it? We actually had some grading, some priority tables that were part of the process. So we did a lot to mine some results and use that data to put in this plan. So what were the outcomes? We had 230 total responses, which was more than double what we had the last time we did this. We had 946 individual comments. 50% of the respondents resided within the city limits. 80% were made up from the city, resort, and Bear Creek townships, which, as you know, are considered residents for the play recreation programs and also anything fee-based. And then 55% participated in the fee-based recreation programs. So the priorities, no surprise here. We had a little trail mishap a few years ago that we haven't quite solved yet. But certainly fixing the wheelway, it was a reoccurring response. And we are currently waiting a proposal from Bergen Associates to come back with us to us for a schematic engineered drawing and design. We have an $800,000 grant through the infrastructure program that will help cover the cost of this proposal, which we estimate to be approximately $1 million. We should have that plan for review, or the proposal for review, hopefully by the end of next week. Now, we know there's no quick fix. We know there's no cheap fix. Out of all of the issues that I've had to deal with throughout my career, this one, I think, is at the top of the list. Several property owners, the city, the county, private properties, all own property on that stretch. So there's a lot of those issues that we have to navigate. And it's important for us to come back with a design that's going to satisfy permitting agencies. So we have to make sure that if we submit something to the state or to federal agencies, that it falls within their permitting parameters. And certainly we need to work together with all of the agencies involved with the wheelway. So some more priorities. If you recall, the needs assessment that we did a few years ago. I referenced that heavily in this document. Now we have accessibility issues in a lot of our parks. The needs assessment pointed that out also. So we need to do a better job of getting our infrastructure to minimum ADA standards where we can. The needs assessment came back at over $3 million. We need immediate attention. And then within 1 to 5 years, it was over $10 million. Obviously, we can't do everything, but those are some numbers that are driving the direction of this plan. And we need to maintain what we have. We have an aging infrastructure. Again, I think the needs assessment outlined that. Also, a few years ago, we went through an update to our current plan that focused on sustainability and resiliency. And that was an amendment that we put in to the chapter. And so now, or rather to the plan. So now it's part of our official plan. We are looking at things with a little bit different set of glasses on. We learned a lot with the high water. We learned a lot about effective and efficient maintenance practices. We want to have a focus on those, landscaping best practices, and certainly when we design and improve our parks, we want to do it in an environmentally and efficient manner. Staffing challenges aren't going to likely become any easier. Last year, we ran about half staff for our seasonal employees. I suspect that's probably going to be the new norm moving forward. So we have to make sure that we're able to maintain with what we have, and certainly funding challenges. When we rely heavily on grants to make these improvements, there is a significant lag from the time we come up with the cost estimates to the time we do the project. And we have a few examples that we've gone through this last year, and Salanis is an example. Our marina is an example. It's been a weird couple of years, to try to come up with accurate numbers. So those are things that we're likely going to have a conversation about in terms of how we move forward with funding some of our improvements. So the first goal is the Petoskey Park System is integral to the unique sense of place of the city and region. So we're going to continue to maintain our parks as a top-rated system by enhancing and protecting funding for parks. We're going to promote our park system as a placemaking strategy. We're going to increase awareness and promote additional cooperative agreements for our programs and facilities. We need to improve our marketing efforts to make sure everyone knows what we have going on in the community. And we need to focus on our existing neighborhood parks. We have a lot of parks that we haven't really focused on. We haven't invested in 20, 25 years, outside of the routine maintenance. We need to evaluate our city-owned property for identified city needs. This is a little change from the last. Notice I didn't say park needs. We have vacant property that perhaps could serve a different purpose other than parks. Housing, for example, maybe there's some opportunities for some city-owned vacant properties to go in different areas, and certainly maximize the use of our unique recreational opportunities that we have here. Another goal is the park system is a known asset for community-wide health and wellness. So we're going to develop and maintain our citywide trail and sidewalk systems for all ages and abilities. We're going to connect the city parks regionally through the Greenway system. I would also think that the relay would be part of that. We're going to enhance the livability of city neighborhoods by investing in our city neighborhood parks. Improve accessibility. We want to engage with all the recreation providers to ensure that all the recreation needs are being met for all age groups. We want to promote the city's
Princess. Mental, emotional, and physical health.
I don't have to start over, do I? You know, and this is something that we've really seen, particularly since the pandemic. Now, those of us in the profession have been stomping our feet and talking about the emotional and the physical and the mental benefits for parks and open space and trails. And it's really highlighted more of a public conversation for the benefits that outdoor recreation and open space provides. So we know that the parks have increased in use just by how many times we have to empty the garbages. And that's a strange barometer, but it's a fairly accurate one. And we'd like to create partnerships with the medical community and certainly strive for universal accessibility in all of our parks where and when we can. Another goal is the basis of Petoskey's high quality of life. The valuable natural resources are managed and protected. So we are going to continue to preserve, protect, and manage our publicly owned waterfront land, which includes the Little Traverse Bay and the Bay River. We want to partner with adjacent communities to protect open space and connections. Again, I think that's a category that the Realway can fall under. Balance the community desire for scenic views with the environmental benefits of trees and landscaping. So there is that balance that we strive for. Enhance our water access and manage our shoreline with to vulnerable areas with native plantings and landscaping best practices, which we have started to do. Now, these are some of the goals that came from the amendment for the resilient and sustainable chapter that are now going to be official part of our goals. So we want to identify alternative energy methods into our planning when we can. We want to design our park facilities using natural and environmentally friendly materials. We want to utilize stormwater management best practices, which again is something that we've started to do, and we're going to continue to do it. We want to focus on designs that support long-term resiliency is another goal to integrate natural designs for our shoreline improvements, to identify landscaping and forestry best practices, to focus on living shoreline concepts, and to ensure long-term public accessibility to our water. So in conclusion, our new master plan, the 23-27 master plan, will focus on resiliency, sustainability, accessibility, efficient maintenance practices within our current parks inventory. We will design in our designs and improvements will include components based on the public feedback. Staffing and funding challenges need to be considered when improvements are made. The relay will remain a priority to fix. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a list of rules to follow by the state. One of them is to a 30-day public review that began in November 7th. And I believe went till November, or rather December 9th. So we exceeded the 30-day. Park and Recreation Commission approved and recommended this at their December meeting. And tonight is the last step for adoption to approve this plan. The deadline for us to get it to the state is February 1st. And so the fact that you moved this meeting, you had it on the 9th instead of the regularly scheduled one meeting in January really helps me out, buys me a few more weeks to get everything organized and submitted to the state. So if anyone has any questions or comments, I will do my best to answer.
Council, do you have any questions? Mr. Wagner.
Thanks for that, Kendall, and to the entire commission. That was a lot of hard work, and I spent a lot of time on it this weekend, actually going through. And mine are mostly comments. I know the mayor's mentioned several times that Ms. Walker on the commission was a few years ago put there to put more emphasis on parks and gardens, and the garden club is such a great asset for us. And so I really appreciate that it's not just recreation, but both were covered so well. There was another piece that I didn't hear here, Kendall, but there was mention of signage and branding, and I think that's so important to us throughout the city, both downtown and all around. The ADA compliance is, I know we needed an outside resource to find that, but you've mentioned it over and over again, and the work we did on Solanus, you did on Solanus, is a great example of that. And I really appreciated the focus on, I do appreciate the focus on downtown, our local residents, parks that have been ignored for several years because we couldn't get to them budget wise. It feels like the focus on downtown and our residents, local residents is all in this. So thank you for that.
Mr. Moore.
I've lived here since 1980, and I learned a lot reading this document. It was incredibly comprehensive and informative, and so I just want to give kudos to you and everybody on the commission. My husband was walking by while I was reading it, and he wanted to know if it was confidential after I told him that it was really, really interesting. So I encourage not only him, but others in the community to really read this document. I guarantee you, no matter how long you've been here, you'll learn something. A few pieces of input. One of the things that was contained in this document said that this is done in the spirit of continuous improvement. I'm a huge believer in that for each and every one of us in all that we do. So I respect that spirit. Also, there was a focus on Petoskey, but as you noted here, also on opportunities for connection and cooperation with other jurisdictions and entities, that balance, along with protecting the interests of residents while working to meet the desires of visitors. So overall, very, very well done. To follow up on Brian's comments about ADA, though, I just wanted, as a point of clarification, the barrier-free evaluation numbers from 1 to 5 for readers. Am I correct in understanding like 1 is best?
No.
Good. I'm glad I'm clarifying.
So there is a chart that is a grading scale that is used by the DNR that is loosely based on ADA, on an ADA checklist. Okay, so it's a scale with 1 to 5, 1 meaning that there really isn't any ADA access. 2 is there's some, 3 most, 4 the park is ADA compliant, and 5 is universal accessibility. So those are where those numbers are derived from.
Thank you. And then just one other thing, I know there was some talk just about the time winter arrived about doing a tour for us of these locations. I personally think that would be really, really helpful at some point in time. I don't know how my colleagues feel, but if possible, I think it would be really informative. So thank you.
Would you want it before the spring? Or during snow?
Not during the snow for Tina. There's.
I was gonna tell people to take out their calendars and let's soon get the meeting to out here. Yeah, okay. Anyone else want to speak? Ms. Walker?
Yes, thank you to Kendall and the Parks and Rec Committee. This is a huge, heavy lift. And I'm so grateful to how the process unfolded and participation from our residents and folks that use the fee-based system, as well as, you know, our friends in Resort and Bear Creek Township. I did have 2 questions. The first one was in regard to the community gardens on page 26. Over the past 3 or 4 years, we've been talking about the expansion of the DPW building and potentially Hungry Hollow moving across the street. And the salt sheds kind of doing a swap-a-rooney. I didn't see that mentioned in the plan, so I was wondering if that's because, or why it wouldn't have been mentioned in this document. Or maybe it was, but it was towards the back of the document that I didn't quite get to by the end of the weekend. Thanks.
Well, I believe there is a section that does reference the community gardens. And if it isn't in there, it should be. So your comments as part of of this meeting go into the document.
Okay. And if I may, Mayor. So in addition to on page 26 of this document, we should say something about the moving of the salt sheds in the DPW building. And then also, after the presentation, by the garden club president, there wasn't any mention of the children's garden on Arlington Park. So I would like to see. Oh, there is. Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay.
67.
Thank you very much.
Chapter 8.
Change in those parts.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Yes, you're absolutely right. Page 67. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's the end of my
Anyone
question.
else like to speak? Mr. Shield.
Thank you, Mayor. I echo my colleagues' comments. Very thankful for all the work that commission's put in and staff to put this document together. I would appreciate the comment section and the collating of all those. It's always fascinating to see what our residents, our citizens are saying. It's so important to hear, and it's hard to always hear, but this type of plan does a good job of getting some of those voices out. 225 is still a small part of our community, so it's not everybody, but it is important. These voices, the people who made the efforts to be able to comment and hear many of them saying we have recognizing we have such a high quality park system. It's great to hear, and the both and nature of that. Yes, we have great parks and rest, and we have some things to work for. I think the plan does a good job of balancing both of those, identifying, highlighting the things that we can be proud of, and then setting some good goals and targets to achieve. And I look forward to being part of the process of helping us meeting some of these plans. And like you said, Mr. Knusswitz, three goals is great or more, but with this plan, we can start to tackle some of those. And the one other comment I had was, I am still working through this plan, so it may be in here, but the idea of the Parks and Rec Department, the crossover with the different departments, Public Works, I'm sure there's a lot of crossover. I saw some of that in the plan, but I think of things like our green stormwater infrastructure in our city. That is that's Public Works, but it's also the trees we plant, the parks and the gardens. So I encourage, and I'm sure it is in there, but I encourage emphasizing that inner city crossover. And lastly, I'm excited about the children's garden.
With Batesfield, we have I think 11 years left on the contract, possibly with the college. Should we be expanding there prior to getting a extended contract with them? I know at one point they were looking at expanding and possibly expanding their operations in the field area where our fields are. I know we have a lease until 2034, and I'm just wondering, where do you see this going with that?
Well, if that's the direction that the administration and council wants to go, we have 11 years to tackle it. I know that they're from a needs standpoint. I know the community could support additional baseball fields. There is a plan because that was originally supposed to be a quad or fields. So there is space available for a fourth field. Some of the comments that came back, if you look at the Bates vision, I mean, there could be other things that could be implemented at Bates as well. So that's a discussion that I'd be happy to to talk about and see where it goes. But yeah, there's demand for soccer and baseball,
Yeah.
pickleball.
There's just one typo. It's on page,
Just one?
I read this thing through every word by word. On page 10, we just have to reverse I saw this afternoon. Staggered 3-year terms and 2-year terms.
Okay.
Just switch the 2 to 3, 3 to 2. Those are backwards. Page 10. I take it we're gonna end up, this will be approved and it'll be finalized then. We're done.
That's the hope,
Mhm.
yes.
I'd like to say thank you to your board members. I know when you had this project going on over next door for the public to come in, I think they were the ones that manned it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I know 2 years ago, they showed up to every park for neighborhood picnics, 4 of them, to get feedback from people. You guys as a board do more on the activities part of this than any other board that the city has. And I want to say thank you for your participation. It's obvious Parks and Rec and this stuff is important, not just to the city, but to you as well. So thank you for your taking part in this and making it easier for the city staff.
Yeah.
Kevin, did a great job on this.
Thank you.
Mr. Moore.
Yeah, just briefly, in the midst of all this positive, I don't want to put a damper on things, but I do think it's important to say on the record, that funding is a real challenge here. And you've done a great job with that, but looking at all these great opportunities, funding will be a challenge. So I think that's the reality that must be recognized and somehow addressed. So thank you.
I concur with you, Mr. Moore, and I think that eventually we're going to have to probably look at some kind of a millage to support Parks and Rec. If we want to keep the level that we have, taxes continue not going up as much as what I think we need for some maintenance and without even starting new stuff, but just the maintenance of what we have. So I hope council is willing to look at the possibility of a millage for Parks and Rec.
What do you think about that, Kendall?
Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion for this, Mr. White? I support.
Make a motion to approve the 2023 to 2027 Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Amendment.
I second the motion.
I have a motion from Mr. Wagner and a second from Mr. Shields. Any other discussion, council? This is a lot to read, like I tell you. I know. I bit it off in 3 sections because it was bad in length. Only 300.
47, I think.
It's the longest book I've ever read. So any other discussion? Does the public wish to weigh in on this and address it to city council? I take it to Miss Beck for roll.
Wagner.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Demore.
Aye.
Walker.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes. Congratulations, Kendall.
Thank you.
Hey. You can all leave or you can stay and watch us do our sausage making.
I'm a vegetarian.
You're the one that mixes the whole pot up more than anybody. Come on. Okay. This is consent agenda. Action for the adoption of a proposed resolution that would confirm approval of the following: the December 19th, 2022 regular session city council meeting minutes, as well as acknowledge a receipt of reports concerning certain administrative transactions that have occurred since December 19th, 2022. And we've added something new, and that is to see how it works is to authorize vehicle purchases through the Michigan deal state of Michigan purchase contract. And if you notice, there are several vehicles that we have in the budget for purchase.
I'll be happy to make a motion, Mayor, to approve all of the above. Oh, I'll be happy to make a motion, Mayor, to approve all the above.
Do I have a second? Mr. Wagner,
I do have a question too, Mayor, if I may.
fly with it, yes.
Thank you. On page 5 of the check register,
Hold on. Five.
it says 5 at the top and 17 at the bottom. Excuse me.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I didn't see.
Excuse me.
You had me going there. Okay,
So fourth line down, Tri-County Excavating, for a total of $121,994. Was that for the excavation up at Northman Drive? I thought I saw Tri-County Excavating working up there.
I don't believe so.
Tri-County actually was our contractor for Solanas, the boardwalk. That's their contract.
Thank you.
Mr. Moore,
I think, do we need two separate motions, though? It looks like there's a separate motion for the vehicle purchase. Am I wrong?
We'll pull it out of the.
No, it's all in the
It's in the
consent, so
consent.
you can either keep it in consent, if you want to pull it off, you can certainly do that.
Mr. Moore,
So then I had a question about the vehicle purchase authorization. Does that program that allows local units of government, does that extend price benefits? Is that what happens with that?
Yes, it's,
Yes.
Mike, do you want us to
Oh,
talk
Mike,
on it?
sure.
That's fine.
Sure.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you're the motor pool expert.
So
green light.
it does offer benefit. So most of the vehicles that we purchase through Michigan, the My Deal state contract, are all bid from dealers that are fleet. So the Krings, the Browns, they don't bid on those vehicles. So we see substantial savings. They're bid through the state, so the state is also purchasing those vehicles. These vehicles that are on the agenda tonight are public safety vehicles that you can only really get through the state contract. They're actually based around the state police vehicle. We just purchased them with that same My Deal extension.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I go to city clerk, back to roll.
Walker,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Demore,
Aye.
Shield,
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes. This is your opportunity for public comment. You can step up to the mic, give us your full name, full address, and if you have an issue or a subject you'd like to discuss with council or make them aware of, it's your opportunity. Does anyone wish to speak to council tonight? Online? No. There being none, thank you. We move on now to city manager's update, and for that, I'm going to turn it over to Shane Horn.
Thank you, Mayor. Since this is the first meeting of the month, I wanted to run through a list of birthdays and anniversaries of staff as we continue to support and acknowledge our staff. A number of birthdays: Ben Carlson, Public Safety, John Hummel, Parks and Rec, Gordon Standish, Water, Wastewater, Lieutenant Schultz, Public Safety, and Drew Levinson and the Electric Department, all celebrating birthdays in the month of January. Was a busy month at various times hiring folks. So we have a number of folks that we hired throughout the years, highlighted by Mark at the top. I think he's our most senior. I'm looking around. I think Mark has that honor at this point, 35 years. Jim Whitney, 23, Fred Halick, Public Safety, 23, Steve Sparks, 23, Brad Cooper, Water Wastewater, 21, Matt Mikulski, Public Safety, 19, Ricky Howard, Public Works, 18, Joe Conti, our Buildings and Grounds expert, 16 years, Val at the library, 8 years, Jason Fate, Public Works, 4, and Sarah Biscup at the library, 4 as well. So certainly congratulate our wonderful staff and their work anniversaries. Public meetings coming up. This is a slower week, this week. Parks and Rec obviously just met tonight, with us. So this is the last public meeting of the week, this week, and then next week we'll gear up. I did, unfortunately left off on Tuesday, the 17th. DMB will have their regular meeting, at 7 p.m. Is that right, Sarah? Or okay.
Yeah.
And then still trying to, I've gotten some responses back from council. I'm hoping to lock this up hopefully tonight. Do you have a preference on our combined city council planning commission meeting, whether that's Monday, the 30th or Tuesday, the 31st?
Council. Mr. Moore,
Monday's my preference, if possible.
I can do either.
Mr. Wagner,
Tuesday was my preference, but I'm good either way. I'll make it work.
I responded either or.
either way.
Me too.
Monday it is.
You said Monday. It's Monday.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Appreciate that. That's all right. Not many updates. I'm going to keep this as a recurring slide and just try to update you as we go along. Haven't heard a lot of movement on the Lofts project. I know they had their December 20th brownfield meeting at the county. Michigan Maple Block, we did meet with the developer on site. Zach and I, Thursday or Friday of last week, we walked the site with the developer. We had a staff review today to get all the players, staff departments around the table and kind of talk conceptually at this point what the plan looks like and give that feedback to their engineer so they can go back and kind of tighten things up. And they will be presenting to Planning Commission at their meeting next week. Is it next week? Yeah, next week, the 19th. So that is just kind of on as a discussion item, but we're not asking the Planning Commission to do anything other than to review it, provide any sort of preliminary feedback at this point on the site plan. And this is something that the developers asked for. Their representative will be in attendance and be able to answer questions. It's fluctuating right now. It's 6 buildings. Looking at Mike, it was like 216 units, but that could fluctuate just underneath 200 depending on their final design. So initially they came to us with about 300 units. So that's kind of been narrowed down a little bit for a variety of reasons, but we think it'll be a great project. The developer is certainly has the capability to pull this off. They're pretty well known in this market. Just completed or is wrapping up a project in Traverse City, similar project. So they're excited about it. They're pretty aggressive about it as well. They have some timelines that are pretty aggressive. So this will be a nice project to get going. It'll be a nice project to see to its completion. So there'll be a number of things that we'll still have to check off. Many of these things require some incentives, so they will be coming to us looking for some incentives as well as to the state to make this all flow from a pro forma standpoint. So Kendall updated you on the Lower Traverse Railway. I won't spend time there. We're still waiting for Baird to come back with their proposal. We still have not heard from the coastal management folks on our request for grant funds. So that's in flux right now, and we'll let you know as soon as we hear anything. I updated you via email on the CEDM Fellowship. Unfortunately, we were not able to get that this cycle. We will continue to apply for that, and I responded to, I think, Council Member DeMore. They only select one fellow per region. So Gaylord was selected in our region for this cycle. So we will again try to apply to that program and take advantage of that opportunity going forward. Then I also sent out today, Emmett County pushed out their ARPA grant program. So that's certainly something I'm open to adding a discussion item on getting your feedback on how you would like to apply for that. We can have multiple applications. It just depends on what you all would like to see us apply for. So we'll continue to have that as an agenda item moving forward. Updating you on the public safety director position, the posting was made on December 12th. The posting will actually close this Friday, end of business. To date, as we sit today, we have received 18 applications. Those are the locations where this has been posted. We have pushed out a community survey. Responses to the survey have been a little underwhelming. But we've gotten good response to very good detailed answers to the questions that I think will be helpful as we go forward. But certainly the survey will remain active up until close of business on Friday. So we'll try to push out one more reminder tomorrow to try to get further responses on this. And on this tone, we were able to celebrate kind of the leader of the band, if you will, as he retired on Friday, Director Breed. And we had a little luncheon for him Friday with a room full of people. That's a lot of his staff that were providing, presenting him with a few mementos, if you will. We provided a plaque from the city and city council to Director Breed as well. It was just a nice ceremony. Certainly appreciate staff and putting together the luncheon and all the work that went on behind the scenes. But I'm certainly going to miss Matt and his leadership and just his grace that he showed on a day in, day out basis. So he certainly left the department in a very good place. And again, I will miss his friendship and leadership and certainly wish him well. Any questions for me? Mr. DeVore?
I think I might have asked you this before, and I apologize if I did, but what's the deadline for input on that public safety director survey?
So we're going to close it the same day we close applications, which would be Friday, end of business. So Friday at 5 o'clock, that survey will be closed. So this Friday, yeah. So this Friday at 5 is the deadline for receiving applications as well.
And then just a quick question with apologies. I didn't read fully that email that you sent us today about the ARPA match, but is the max match $50,000?
Yes.
That's what I was gonna ask too.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Shields.
Mayor John, can you just a quick summary of what the process is for the hiring the public safety director?
Yeah, so that's really not been finalized yet. I really, in looking back on how this was done previously, I support the way that was handled last time. We had essentially 2 interview panels. We had department directors, staff that did some interviews, as well as brought the finalists in front of council for you all to provide interviews and meet the finalists as well. As you know, charter says that is a position that's hired and managed by the city manager. However, in this kind of public facing type of position, that's really a community position. I really want to get as much people to provide input as possible. So I would anticipate a similar scenario where the final, I'll say 3 or so, bring them in front of you, get your input, combine that input with departmental input and the panel that interviews and try to put all of our heads together and try to get the best candidate for the city that we can possibly get. So that's kind of what I envision.
if you want to, I really want, because this question's been asked as well. Would the public be able to participate? And that's why I want to have that happen at a council meeting, at a public meeting where either someone's on the Zoom, that they can participate that way. They can see the candidates, they can hear the questions, they can hear the responses. Because it is such a community-based position.
Thank you.
Any others? We're set. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Next is the appointments. I have for you bringing forward 2 appointments, both for the district library. Oh, the mayor pro tem. Oh, I was hoping to skip that part. No. Because I did not take the opportunity to discuss this with the person that is serving now, but I would hope that he would consider continuing the job of mayor pro tem a second year.
It would be a pleasure, Mayor. I filled in once last year, so I've been well practiced.
I can tell you that there will be one time in about February, the end of February, where I will be out of the office, totally out of the city, so you're gonna get a good opportunity. Thank you.
Sign your vacation.
Thank you.
I have to get my vacation slip signed though. Shave first. Don't tell my girlfriend I'm going away. So I asked the council, I need a second supporting Mr. Wagner as mayor pro tem.
Who's making the
Did we
motion?
get a motion?
I'm asking for a motion.
I will make the motion. Yeah.
I will second the motion.
I have a motion to accept my appointment of Mr. Wagner. And I take it to you for roll call.
Demore,
Aye.
Walker. Aye. Shields.
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes,
Murphy.
Yes,
thank you all.
I scribbled over the top of that already with notes. Next is the consideration of appointment to the district library board, and that I'm bringing 2 people forward. One, Ann Ingalls. If you've noticed, she is very active in the library. I can tell you that when I go there, such as the Holocaust presentation things, I know she was very active and involved with that. She's a very active participant on the board. And I ask that you support her and put her back on the board for.
Mayor, I'd be happy to make a motion to support the reappointment of Ann Ingalls.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion from Ms. Walker and a second from Mr. Shields. Any discussion? Vote.
Walker. Yes. Shields.
Yes.
Demore.
Aye.
Wagner.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes. Would you please stand up so everybody can recognize that? So.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. He's also very active in the historical society. She's active in a lot of stuff that helps make Petoskey go. Next on it is Trevor Nelson. He lives at 528 Wachtel Avenue. He is was filling a spot, so he was only in there for a couple months, 6 months. She brought his name to me, and by chance I was already discussing with people about who to get, and so this is a great. He's doing a great job. He's very fired up for it. So I ask that you support Trevor Nelson. Mr. Wagner.
I motion to approve Trevor Nelson in Ward 3.
I'll second that.
No.
We have a motion from Mr. Wagner, a second from Mr. Shields. Any other vote, please?
Wagner.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Demore.
Aye.
Walker. Yes. Murphy.
Yes. We have 2 more things. Yes, please.
One thing I've noticed since I've been on city council is this balance of continuity of experience of people on commissions and boards and new perspectives. And I just want to say kudos. That's a really good thing, I think, in any organization. Having people with that degree of experience, yet bringing new ideas is optimal. So I just wanted to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we're about 50-50 male to female, 27-27 as well. I also have a map at home of where people live on these boards for this, just a dot. I have to look up who the dot is, but a dot, because I'm trying to make sure we get representation to not just Ward 1 and Ward 2, but Ward 3 and Ward 4. So I have tried to push these other wards being involved in it as well, so.
Maybe we should buy you some different colored stars or something.
What you could do right now that would really help the city, what you could do right now is help us find a person that would serve on the board of review.
Okay.
And could I talk to you after the meeting, Sharon? Okay,
No pressure, Sharon.
we may not have to do anything, but I'll let you guys know. But I'm hoping that we do have a few positions like that are usually the harder ones to fill. Because you need somebody that's retired and can miss a day in this March and a day in September, is it? December, July. There's a couple of days in there. So that's all I had for you on that one. Now we're going to new business, it's the authorization to contract with E.F. Wilkinson and Sons in Sheboygan in the amount of $858,946.79 for Bridge Street reconstruction project and Porter and Maple Street mill and fill. And I turn it over to Mr. Robbins.
The next two agenda items are related, so I'll go through one at a time here, just to clarify. So the Bridge Street reconstruct and Porter and Maple Street mill and fill is our construction plans for the 2023 season. We went out for bids in early December, which is typical for us in the city. We try to get the bids out early, get the bids back so that we can award early. And it's been a past practice of ours for years, but it's paying off now because of the materials and the supply chain issues. In particular, ductile iron water main is becoming difficult to find. We feel confident, though, that we'll make the deadlines that we propose to the contractor based on an interview with him. The scope of work is the full reconstruct of Bridge Street from basically the Bridge Street Bridge to Franklin. We'll put new curbs, sanitary, new water main, there'll be new sidewalks. And then once we get done with that project, we're going to mill and fill and do spot repairs of concrete and sidewalk on Porter from the bridge all the way to US 131. And then we'll pick up Maple Street and mill and fill and do curb and gutter repairs and sidewalks. I will make one comment about the Curtis Street, Porter Street intersection. It's been commented in the past about trying to get a safe crosswalk that would allow the neighborhoods to get to the river valley. And we have designed that in this project. Right. So you'll see new curb dubs, what we call those, with ADA ramps accordingly. The projects are going to that will be where, Gary? Curtis, Porter, and Bridge Street intersection. It's kind of a three-way intersection, and there's a park entrance right on Curtis and Porter where they meet the river valley. Right. So we're going to create a crosswalk actually crossing Curtis to get to the river valley. Okay. That sidewalk kind of comes down there now and just kind of dead ends, and it's not a real good intersection. So the projects are going to, we broke it up into two phases. We're going to focus on early spring with the Bridge Street reconstruct to get that started and get that moving along. And then we'll phase in the mill and fill because that's a very quick process, if you will. And I'll talk about the concrete crews here in a minute, but the concrete crews will be working on Bridge Street. And then we'll also be doing some spot repairs. And the reason I say we're going to interchange some of these and overphase, if you will, the projects is because we have businesses involved. And we have the Bill and Carol's, we have the Great Lakes Pipe, we have a hair salon that's in business, the Women's Resource Center. There's some things we're gonna have to coordinate, and certain times of year are better than others for those, and we'll deal with them directly. We've already talked to most of them and have a general idea, but the spot repairs go fairly quick. It's just getting the removals done, getting the crews in. So the phasing is gonna be focused early on Bridge Street, and then we'll bleed over into the Porter and the Maple Streets. At the end, once Bridge Street is done, then you'll see the mill and fill come in, and we'll probably pave about the same time for all three locations, just for the mobility and the disruption that it's going to cause. So we went out for bids. I mentioned that in November. These open bids in December. Received 3 bids. We sent them out to 8 different contractors, which is typical for us. And we received bids. E.F. Wilkinson was low at $858,946.79. Elmer's Crane and Dozer in Tri-County came in second and third accordingly. I made a comment in the write-up about additional cost. And with the 1.5 million plus, or almost 1.6 that we allocated for this project, the bid came in at $858,000. But I'll get into the concrete side of things in a minute. But in this contract with E.F. Wilkinson, it does not contain any concrete work. We broke that out of the project for various reasons. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But the other costs that we are going to be associated with this project that total $424,000 are is all the concrete. So it's the sidewalk, curb and gutters, drive approaches, water service line replacements. That's been something that's been added in the last 3 years due to the lead and copper rule. We are required by the rule to, if we do a full reconstruct on a street, we are obligated, if it's a galvanized service line, to replace it from internal of the house out to the street. And those can be very challenging. We did 7 or 8 on Lake Street last year. We have up near 14 on this project. So we threw some dollars at that. And then we also throw money aside for the site restorations. The contractor is responsible for the topsoil, but we do all the final grading and the seeding mulch with our landscaper. It gives us a little better product, and we've been doing it for years, and it tends to put the icing on the cake, if you will, tying grades together. Tree planting is accommodated with that process. So it's an easy coordination for us once the topsoil is placed. So tonight we're looking for the first resolution is we'd like to award to the E.F. Wilkinson and Sons Group out of Sheboygan for the $858,946.79. They have not worked for us into the city of Petoskey. This is the first time that they have actually bid that I'm aware of. We did interview the contractor. We had some good vibes for that interview, and we're willing to take the chance to see how they do. It's I think that they'll do fine, just based on their history and some of the subs that they are going to be working with locally.
I take it that you've also know of some of their work.
Yes, we actually they do a lot of work for the city of Sheboygan, and we talked to the city of Sheboygan, and they had no issues. So you may have seen some of their equipment around our city, but they do a lot of trucking. You'll see the E.F. Wilkinson. It's an old family business where the son and the daughter have taken it over, and there's some family members involved in the excavation side of things. So we didn't have anything that would tell us to not let them try this. So we're confident based on our interview that they'll do a good job for us.
Sounds great. It's a good area of the town, city to get taken care of because it is rough there.
It is rough. And it's a river crossing, which is one of 5, including the Mitchell Bridge. And it's a busy street. So.
Mr. Wagner, you wish to make us express.
I'd like a motion to approve E.F. Wilkinson and Sons.
And I'll second.
I have a motion from Mr. Wagner and a second from Ms. Walker. Questions, Mr. Moore?
Yeah, Mike, if, I don't know if this is the case there or not, but if there are any expected fixture removals in the right of way or existing private sprinkler systems, all that sort of thing, will we be giving proactive notice
We
then?
will.
Okay,
We will we've already talked to the businesses and we've talked to a handful of the residents because we've been on the street in the last few months with the surveys and doing the walkthroughs with the contractors. So we'll definitely go the extra mile to let them know what's coming.
it'll be a written notice.
Yes, it will be hand delivered.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Not even mail, but just hand delivered, which is even better.
Yeah.
Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I heard of good feedback from the Lake Street project, the communication that you and your staff had with the disruption. It was, people were aware of what's going on. I felt that it was very timely communication, so thank you for doing that. And that's great. Did you say the service lines, you repair them all the way from within the house?
Within the house, we actually go into the house, into the residence, and we pull the service out. There's different techniques that we use based on some of the elements that we have to work around, but yes, we're obligated to replace it
Okay.
full, right to the meter.
And that will, so we're closer to the 100%, we'll get close to that.
Yes.
So that's a good jump forward then.
Yeah, there's a set of guidelines and rules that we're following through the state, and it's an inventory is what we're going through right now. That's due, I think, in early 25 or the first. And but this is part of the rule that if you do any street reconstruction, you're obligated to change it if you find it. And we found them, so.
Great.
We'll do that, which is the right thing to do.
Yep.
We're also going to change the service going into the daycare center at the Women's Resource. We're just going to do that automatic. Mill and fill projects you're not obligated to do that, but we're going to do some site investigations on some services, key services, and replace if needed.
And that the crosswalk, the safe crosswalk, does that, so it involves the curbs, is it painting on the street as well?
Yes, it will entail all of that. We'll paint the crosswalk and it'll be dubbing the curbs and creating the ADA ramps with the truncated domes.
Great,
So,
thank you.
You have signs that say, watch for pedestrian and crosswalk or something like that, right? You have them.
I'll use those in the school zones more than we do elsewhere because there's just so many crosswalks in the city. The consistency we try to use are the busy school zone areas to give the warning.
Okay. Mr. Wagner.
I know that intersection in question, which we're gonna, I was walking, came out of my ward
Yes.
convention.
Yep.
And so I know some folks are gonna be really happy, and I use that quite a bit coming up from the bike trail.
Yep.
And you're kind of watching in three directions, so I appreciate that.
Yep.
And the Bridge Church, for what it's worth, there's almost nobody there. If you need help hand delivering, they're changing over their leadership, and they're really only there like for services on a Friday night. But I can tell you who it is.
Okay, great, because it's been pretty quiet when
Yes,
we
it
were
is.
walking the street numerous times, so.
Yeah.
All right. Have a motion. Want to call roll?
Wagner,
Yes.
Walker. Yes. Demore,
Aye.
Shields,
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes. Passes 5-0. Now, Mike, we have another motion that you want to just stay there for, and that's the concrete union price bids. I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so we've done this in the past, and it's not only affiliated with the Bridge Street and the Mill and Fill project, but we also use these contractors for miscellaneous as needed services around the city.
Hmm.
So we do fixes in the Central Business District. The last time we used this type of format, we fixed the A pier in Kendall's Marina. But this really gives us the opportunity to pick the concrete contractor based on availability, performance, and pricing. So we put together on the back page, you'll notice that there's 40 line items that we have requested pricing on, and this does include all of the concrete also. So they're obligated to tell us a price per foot per curb, a price per square foot per sidewalk, drive approaches, we cover it all, saw cutting, As you notice that some of the contractors, we received 2 out of the 4 that we sent out. But concrete contractors are very tough to come by, and they always have been tough to come by. And they typically are subcontractors, the prime, which is a Wilkinson. But if we become the prime and schedule that contractor, we get better results because we can schedule them when we need them based on business openings that we can get the concrete in. And so we coordinate all of that. Not only for the Bridge Street and the mill and fill, but we'll do it for citywide repairs. If we have a main break and we need a concrete curb replaced for 8-9 feet of that curb, we have some pricing that we can fall back on and schedule. Ryan Brothers, I will say, have been the concrete contractor of choice. They did the Lake Street job as a sub to Elmer's. That job was big enough. We didn't want to try to coordinate it. There was a lot going on there. So this summer with the mill and fill and the spot repairs and the Bridge Street, which is not a lineal footage wise, not a huge project. We've asked that we can contract with Van Cocker of Petoskey and Ryan Brothers of Petoskey. And we'll be basing it on pricing is our priority, but it's also availability. And if you notice in the specs, that they filled in, that Van Cocker is not a concrete curb and gutter guy. So he didn't even give us a price on it, but they're both into the flat work. We call the flat work, the sidewalk, the drive approaches, and that sort of thing. So we're asking for approval to use Ryan Brothers or Van Cocker based on availability and coordinate that through our prime contractor, Wilkinson, and other spot repairs as needed around the city.
Mr. Moore.
Just, so basically, it's like a la carte in effect. I mean, based on timing and cost. You
Correct.
choose what,
Yeah, we really do. And it's getting a concrete contractor to respond is the big thing. So when we put these prices together, we give them a general idea. I mean, they all know what's coming on Bridge Street and those quantities have all been established. Hence the reason in the previous agenda memo, I mentioned the additional cost. So they know that they're going to get that cost. And when they're in town, we know that they'll work for us other places. So we'll try to coordinate all that.
I'm happy to make the motion.
Please. A motion from Mr. Moore. Do I have a second? Mr. Shields, I'll second.
Second the motion.
Any other discussion? Yes, please.
Mike, you mentioned the drive approaches. Do members of the residents or business owners there for contact with these contractors to do the private extensions of their driveway?
They do. And we coordinate that. We'll put them in touch with that contractor, but any of the dealings we will not be involved in.
We just connect.
Yeah, we just connect them and then they have their own side contract with that homeowner or residents. What we do, if they're serious about it, we did this on Lake in several locations, we'll coordinate it with our project. So we'll tell the homeowner, you two worked it out. You're telling us that they're going to work for you. We'll let you know when they're going to do that so it best fits our project.
Great, I think that's a neat opportunity.
It is. A lot of people do take advantage of it. So
Thank you.
I did want to make one other comment with the Bridge Street project that one of the key residents, if you will, is the Riverview Terrace. That is a busy place with a lot of folks that are coming and going, and that is on, if you will, towards the bridge more than anything. So we're trying to coordinate that. But if anybody hears anything about Riverview Terrace, we're going to work with them very closely on how we can coordinate getting those folks in and out of there. Besides public safety, it's every time I was over at that street working, there was a call to that residence, to the Riverview. So we'll do our best to try to coordinate that with those folks and make sure that they can get in and out of there. But if anybody hears anything, please let us know, let Shane know, and we'll try to address it ASAP.
Roll, please.
Moore. Aye. Shields.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Walker. Yes. Murphy.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Thank you for your evening time.
Thanks.
Thank you for what you do. City council comments. I'll start with Ms. Walker. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Delightful event. Once again, I think it was my 10th year participating in the Crooked Tree Arts Center's annual New Year's Eve celebration. Just a great community collaborative event. So many willing and able volunteers manning different stations there. So just a wonderful community event, and I'm so proud of our community. And it was a really beautiful evening, well attended, and just a nice celebration. So grateful for that.
Mr. Wagner. Mayor, I wasn't able to attend the opening of the Holocaust exhibit, but I will be there, and I know Val Meyer's going to impress the heck out of me. That exhibit's going to, I believe, we're one of 50 stops in the country, and there's only one of 3 or 4 in the state. So, and you 2 in the state, so and I know you know better, but I'm super impressed with what our library has done to bring that here, and it's I'm looking forward to it.
Mr. Shields.
My only comment is I'm looking to schedule an opportunity.
Mr. Moore.
I also unfortunately was not able to get to the opening of the Holocaust exhibit, but I look forward to attending. As an adjunct of the last matter that we considered, this has kind of been on my radar for a while, so I just want to put out there to my colleagues. The bidding policy that we have in the city of Petoskey was put together in 1994. So I would just submit that this may be something that we or our city manager may want to take a look at. Times have changed quite significantly since 1994 in bidding, and having looked at it, I think that might be a good idea. So thank you.
Thank you for your research. I did attend the Holocaust piece the other day, and I'm